talking? Okay. Hi, I'm just testing council meeting for January 11th, 2021. Is it good? Paula? This is a test? This is a test for the council meeting on January 11th, 2021.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Test. Okay, welcome everyone. It is 2022. Is it crazy? We wish to call to order the regular meeting of council on January the 11th at 4 p.m. Council would like to acknowledge the Euclid thought on whose traditional territories the District of Euclid operates. Notice the video recording. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube and Zoom, which may store data on foreign servers. Late items, if you don't mind, I would like to poll the Committee of the Whole regarding the Barclay Community Forest Funds with the absence of Councillor Cole, and then we can put it on the next agenda. Would be my only change to this agenda. Did I get you guys okay with that?
Second.
Okay, perfect. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The adoption of the minutes from December the 14th.
Second.
Any errors or omissions? Looking left, looking right. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And moving right along, public input. Opportunity, if there's any questions from members of the public. If you're attending via Zoom, please use the raise hand icon to speak. And if you're attending by telephone, please hit *9. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to ask any questions?
There are no hands raised at this time.
And confirming there's none via telephone?
There are also none via telephone.
Since we're with you, are there any received via emails through the community input at euclid.ca?
One moment, please. I'll just check. Nothing via community input.
Perfect. Okay. I know you have a delegation. Did you have some public input you'd like to bring forward? Okay, if you don't mind just going to the podium with your name and address. See, it's all yours. It's on the microphone itself. They'll get you sorted out here, Jeff.
See that. This. Thank you. This comment is just that I notice there's a coffee invite for council, mayor or council, to attend the meeting, and in their absence, should no one be interested, I'd like you to forward it to the Barclay Community Forest, as they may be interested.
What was the first? I missed the first part.
The coffee. Go. If no one from mayor and council wants to go, I think the community forest would be interested. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up because I do have an interest in attending that. What's the president's name? Is it Susan of the Community Forest Initiative?
There's a Susan and there's a Jennifer Gunter. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Invite. Okay. Okay, it is. So it's. I knew I saw it somewhere. Okay, we got two delegations. First, we'll be starting with Denise with Tourism Euclid. Is she? Oh, zooming it. Okay. Welcome, Denise.
Hello, Your Worship and Council. Happy New Year.
We haven't had a date in a while, so we'll have to circle back to that next week.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to thank you for seeing us this afternoon, and thank you for accepting our delegation via Zoom instead of in person. The purpose of our delegation today is just to touch base with council and staff at the district as Tourism Euclid moves into the beginning of our renewal period for the MRDT. We just wanted to touch base with council and just share some thoughts, kind of where we are and the process along, as well as some considerations that we're making. And to present today, I brought Julian Ling, who is our treasurer, and Callum Matthews from Tourism Vancouver Island, who is one of our facilitators. So on that note, I will let the gentleman take it away.
Just requesting access to do a screen share if that's possible, please.
You are a panelist right now, so you should be able to share your screen.
It unfortunately just says host has disabled participant screen sharing when I click on that.
Let me try to make you a co-host and see if
There we go. That's done it, I believe. So I trust everybody can see that now.
Yes.
Great. Over to you, Julian.
All right, thank you. So I'm here today, so for the record, Julian Ling, speaking on behalf of the board of Tourism Euclid to introduce this topic. Callum, if you could move to the next slide, please. So the focus here is the MRDT program. Just a little bit of a recap. It's a 5-year program, or operates on a 5-year cycle, and it raises a 2% tax on accommodation, which is paid by visitors to Euclid, and that is collected by the province and then remitted to the community, and we spend it on various things. It's remitted to the District of Euclid as a designated recipient of those tax funds. And then there are two parts. There's the general funding part, which comes from what I'm calling traditional accommodation providers, in more tech speak, the fixed roof accommodation providers. And that's used by Tourism Euclid to provide the operational services that we do as part of tourism in Euclid, including destination marketing, visitor services, visitor and community engagement, and stakeholder support. And it's these latter things that have been increasing in our attention in recent years, but I'll come on to that more in a minute. The other part of the tax base comes from online providers, and we can think about providers like Airbnb, and that's collected centrally by the province and then distributed to us. And that part may be used for the same kind of purposes as the general funding or for affordable housing initiatives. The current cycle, we're sort of not really towards the end. I mean, look, it's 18 months away until renewal is due, or rather, I should say 18 months until the current arrangement expires. But the submissions are due in 9 months in advance, and it's quite a bit of work, consultation and planning to pull that together. So we're making a start on this renewal cycle now. A key point I want to reinforce to all of council, and frankly anyone who's listening, is that this MRDT renewal is subject to the support of the municipality, meaning mayor and council, and also the stakeholders of tourism in Euclid. And it's important that we act as one and we come together with a plan on which we're all agreed for this MRDT funding. Callum, if you could do next slide, please. Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of this, It's about a 2 million program, or 2 million value over a 5-year period. I've done a little bit of a look back and a little bit of a forecast to what next or this year might hold. And this is kind of how the money looks. You see on the chart, there's blue parts. This year, we're planning on 355 revenues for the general funding and another 100 from the online providers. We don't quite know how that will grow in the future, but if you look at that, it's well north of 2 million at the collection rate of 2%. One of the questions we'll be looking at, and Callum will cover that more in a little bit, is whether we should look at a 3% collection rate. And clearly, if we do, then that increases these numbers by about 50%. So the visitor taxes collected would be 3 million for the community. So it's something we should seriously consider, although at this point, we're not prejudiced as to whether we do or don't recommend that. Next slide, please, Callum. Then I wanted to share with you just a quick view on how we receive the money and what we do with the money, just to show what our current plans are. And again, this is what we'll be looking at and revisiting as we look at the next 5-year cycle. On the left of the screen, you see our revenues listed as 712K, and that's taken from our tactical plan that we filed quite recently. 355 of that, so a good strong half, is the general funding from MRDT. 100K of that is MRDT from the online providers, the OAP. And then we, as Tourism Euclid, anticipate getting grants to value of $35,000, which includes things like Canada Summer Jobs that helps staff our visitor centre, and some other revenues from sales and so on that we make, is 46,000. There's the last part of that pie chart, which isn't really a revenue, at least not a 22 revenue. That 177,000 is the shortfall from the spend that will make up from TU's reserves. And I'm probably being a little bit crude here, but we got lucky last year with funding. We cut back on our marketing because we were asked to, and it was the right thing for us to do. So we didn't spend on those things, but we were quite lucky and fortunate to get many grants from the federal sources and the province, which helped maintain us some buoyant funds. That gives us the ability to spend quite well this year, in fact, spend beyond our means, really, as part of restarting and coming out of COVID. So if I switch to the right-hand part of the chart now, we've got a fairly balanced approach to what we spend our money on. Our plan is 231,000 on marketing, so about a third. 177 on visitor services, and that 177 is just coincidental with the other one. It's not the same number, it's just the same, happens to be the same. But that's a little less than a third. And then the rest is stakeholder support and administration and operational expenses. We'd like to perhaps carve up or allocate that operational expense to its respective parts, because some is on stakeholder support, some is on marketing, and some is on visitor services. So you could really think that TU spends its money about a third on marketing, visitor services, and stakeholder support. The last 100, that top left piece of the pie, that's literally a pass-through, and that's our OAP revenues, which the district allocates to affordable housing projects. The next slide, please, Callum.
Thanks, Julian. And I want to begin by acknowledging that I'm joining from the traditional territory of Shnaymak First Nation here in Nanaimo, though wish the times would permit us to join in person, but look forward to that in the near future. My team and I are really delighted to be able to support Tourism Euclid in the district with this MRDT renewal process. And our role on the project is to support the stakeholder engagement efforts in the development of the 5-year plan, 1-year tactical plan, corresponding budgets, and then also working with council and district staff to secure all the required documentation that is a component of the MRDT renewal. We're just at the starting point here, but this is a timeline of some key date milestones for the process. As was mentioned, the expiry for the current MRDT term is June 1st, 2023, which means that in order to get this application in 9 months in advance of that date, and to also complete our work prior to the busy summer season, now and through the rest of winter and spring, is the opportunity to really move this project forward. Over the past 2 days, we had some really excellent conversations with the Tourism Euclid board and some other, key tourism leaders around some strategic planning and goal setting. Beyond that, we are taking this opportunity to, share the process with all of you, and would like next to discuss how we can, successfully work with council to seek input and guidance through the process. The next major milestone will be drafting a strategic framework of the 5-year plan. Then working with stakeholders in an engagement session to provide input. We also plan to conduct a series of one-on-one and small group interviews to ensure that we're having truly deep and meaningful engagement through the process. We'll then have a draft 5-year plan available for review by any tourism stakeholder, district staff, etc., and look to present a refined version or final draft of that 5-year plan towards mid to late March of this year. Once that takes place and we feel that the plan is in a solid spot and that we're ready and likely to be successful with the accommodation process, we'll be reaching out to accommodation providers who have 4 or more rooms and a fixed roof property, and we'll require them or we'll be asking them to sign on in support of the plan and the renewal. In order to be successful, we need to have a majority of properties reflected in those signatures collected. We'll then be working with staff to secure bylaws and supporting documentation that's a key part of the application, and look to submit the application ideally sometime in early September, if not before then, depending on how timelines go. And to be clear, the launch date for any new incremental initiatives, as well as for the potential of additional revenue generated from moving from 2 to 3%, would start in June of 2023. There's a couple of key questions that we're considering through this process, and this is just some of the things that we know are top of mind. First of all is evaluating the option of going to 3% and looking at what some of the benefits and perhaps challenges associated with that increase to 3% may be. Most communities around Vancouver Island and the province are choosing to move forward with a 3%. Just this past year, my team and I have worked with about a half dozen communities around the island in pursuit of this. And the general finding is that it generates more OAP revenue that can go towards affordable housing, and it's more general and incremental revenue to support tourism-related activities in a community. We also find that some of the other questions that we're wrestling with around the visitor center building issue and ensuring that Tourism Euclid is able to safely and effectively welcome and provide guest services, and really having to study that issue. There's also been a huge focus over the past 2 days of conversations at the start of this process around sustainable tourism, and really trying to focus on ensuring that tourism is fitting within the needs of residents of Euclid and the broader natural environment. And also looking around, digging deeper into this affordable housing issue and how MRDT can help to power some solutions towards that. At this time, what we're really curious about and would love a bit of engagement around is how council would like to provide input and engage with this MRDT renewal process. I know from past work that working directly with council really is critical to setting us up for success and ensuring that the MRDT strategy reflects the goals and desires of hoteliers and the broader tourism sector, but also of community members. And we believe that to be hugely important here. A couple of options that come top of mind for us would be delighted to have an opportunity to conduct one-on-one or small group interviews with councillors. Also, the option of potentially working through a staff report and appearing at a committee of the whole meeting. Also would be delighted to present the final MRDT 5-year plan. And those are really just a couple of ideas. But more than anything, would love to have really deep and meaningful engagement with council through the process, and ultimately work to ensure that engagement is really accommodating to your needs as council. And that about wraps up everything that we were hoping to discuss, but would be happy to answer any questions if time permits. Thank you.
We got lots of time. Thank you for the presentation.
I had a question for you, Callum. Accommodation providers with less than 4 rooms, they also collect and remit the MRDT, but they are not considered part of the stakeholders when you're only going to talk to people with 4 rooms or more. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so great question. So from a legislative perspective, we are required to have properties that have 4 or more rooms actually sign off on a physical piece of paper in support of the renewal. So those properties require a bit of special attention simply because we have to go knock on the door and ask for a signature and support. That said, we are looking to engage with any accommodation provider, whether they're fixed roof or not. And also short-term rental and bed and breakfasts are important contributors to the visitor economy, and proprietors of those business types are individuals that we're very much looking forward to engage with through the process.
Great, thank you for explaining that.
Hi, Kellen. What is the percentage of MRDT that goes into the affordable housing for the DOU?
So I say that, yeah, it's not defined by a percentage. We can look at it, and our forecast for this next year is at 100K out of 455. So you might say it's about a fifth, but it's really the revenue that's specifically collected from the online accommodation platforms. It's not defined by a percentage.
There are 2 separate collection pieces. So there's the basic funding that comes from the hoteliers, and then there's also for the larger accommodation, so 4 units or more, and then the OAP is collected through any accommodation provider that uses Airbnb as a method of retaining reservations. So there are 2 separate streams of funding.
And just to remind the group, when that was eligible through the province, we immediately turned into, rather than coming up with a fixed fund that we just, Denise was living without that money, so it was just throw it right into that affordable housing component.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been great. Do you have another question? You'll be interested to see, and when you asked about how do you get engage with council, I would encourage you to perhaps maybe groups of 2. I think if it's 5 of us, some of us maybe will take over the conversation. So perhaps it'd be good, and if you also have, and if you maybe hit council maybe later on rather at the beginning, it'd be good to see what your stakeholders are doing, because at the end of the day, you put it, we are the all stop, and I want to make sure that we're that we are addressed. I think there's no secrets with Indigenous relationships and everything else. You've heard my 2 cents on that, and I just really want to make sure that there are entry points that you're working with us individually and then keeping us abreast. I am when we get into 3%, and my only hang up, I'm supportive of the direction, and you guys have all heard. I just want to say just because it's public here, it's just I want to make sure that 1% is actually going to, because we see some of the shortfalls that we have here as a district as we're sitting here, with the impact that tourism has in our community. We got our CFO here in the room, and whether it's picking up garbage, whether everything else in visitor services. I think visitor services a number of years ago was a big win for taxpayers when Tourism Euclid took it over. And I'm hoping during this engagement working with Mr. Lawrence and the group is what other things that are possible to put under that 1% that maybe lessen the impact on taxpayers. Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about signs and moving tourists around and parking, right now towns quite fine the way it is, but when we're looking at the 1%, and I hope that you'll come up with some creative solutions of what that could look like. I know you have restrictions due in the province, but again, I think it's just going to take some creativity, and I know the province is open to those conversations. So I just want to make sure you're looking at all those options.
Okay, thank you.
Timelines. Obviously, it's like everything here. Your hope is to have this done by September. I guess question for Mr. Lawrence is, if there's a delay in this, when does the elected at this table stop making decisions? And again, I want to make sure I don't see the next table changing this, but you have to be aware that if you've got a timeline, you may need to put some extra effort into it to ensure that. So, question to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Generally speaking, council should not be making any new policy directions or bylaws or changes in direction once the nominations are out. So technically August 15th, around there, preferably, mid-July at the latest.
So, and that's an important thing for us because we're going to be, sitting in our chairs here for decoration here pretty quick. So we just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that, and that could, I don't want you to speed up the process, but no, if it's well vetted, I think you'll be able to go. So I just wanted, that was my big note on the election part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the mayor, just a slightly off-related topic, but Denise, I noticed your notice today looking for 5 new board members. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's going to happen at your AGM. Do you have a date set for that yet?
I do, as a matter of fact. Give me one moment. I can certainly get that information for you. We have it scheduled for Tuesday, March the 29th, and all things, hoping, fingers crossed, it will be in person, but at this point, it could very well be via Zoom again. So, but it's the 29th of March is what we have scheduled.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's usually free eats there, so it's always good. She likes to ration the tickets at the door. So yeah, that's my last couple questions. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that, and I look forward to the engagement and get on out there, as Councillor McEwen said. Don't forget about the little guys out there that may not be the big producers. And then as we go down this path, is there going to be an ability to look at campsites that are not participating in this program? Are you able to give us an update with those that are not currently paying in the program that perhaps should be?
As it currently stands, the MRDT program only collects from those fixed roof properties, including short-term rentals. And unless there's a higher level change to the legislation, that's not something that we would be able to impact here in Euclid through this renewal, unfortunately. But there can be other opportunities to try to find some creative solutions to get campgrounds and other sorts of businesses to potentially contribute in different ways.
So you do have some suggestions that you'll share with us a little bit later on, because obviously it's not the first time you've probably heard this. So it's been going on for some time now, and the campsites are actually, I think, the biggest point of what do you say, most labor intensive accommodation provider, but unfortunately they're not contributing. So what are some options other communities are doing?
Yeah, so I think that one option that would be potentially on the table, and I've got to stress that it's voluntary. There isn't a mandatory tax mechanism that I'm aware of, but some communities in the country have taken an approach of levying a destination marketing fee at it's typically been for marketing at businesses that don't fit into the MRDT program or whatever visitor funding program exists in a given area. There are some challenges associated with implementing a voluntary DMF, but it's certainly something that we can look at and discuss. And I'm glad that you raised this issue, because it hasn't come up in the past 2 days, and is something that we can certainly dig into.
Okay, and I know Denise has heard this many times, and Mr. Lawrence with the new CAO and at the ACRD, there's some new people in some seats here that might actually get a little momentum on this subject, so it'd be good.
That's something we could advocate through the UBCM for something like that, because I remember reading something about there was a conversation starting about that.
Yeah.
No, perfect. I just want to make sure it's on the radar. That's all I have. Is there anything else for you guys? No, we look forward to it. I think it's great, and thanks for putting the time into it. And like always, be good. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next delegation is coming alone today. Mr. Lyons, welcome.
Jeff Lyons, 190 Alder Street, which I neglected to mention last time, but same address. Without belaboring you with the write-up that I presented to everyone, I'd just like to try to encapsulate it. So, some background. In 2009 and 2010, the aquarium was trying to fund the facility with minimum debt. $200,000 was a shortfall that we needed, and at that time, the Resort Municipal Fund was just being introduced. Excuse me. And also, ICE-T were offering a 50% matching funding for any grants. So, and I have to admit it was me that suggested it, which may, with hindsight, have been an error, but perhaps the District of Euclid could allocate $100K from the RMF fund to the aquarium and allow them to build a public washroom and garner another $50,000 from ICE-T. So that was the background as to how it came about. It appeared to work, and the only downside was the aquarium lost a valuable piece of their facility to sacrifice for the washrooms. Consequently, the aquarium is growing, and I think we all accept it's been very successful, but we have nowhere to go as far as expanding. We did look at, and I approached the district planning department about the adjacent foreshore lease of possibly building a bigger one, and they advised me that that's part of the downtown revitalization, and they don't want to see an expanded aquarium. So that left us to the situation of what is there that we could utilize, and like it or not, the only available item seems to be the public washroom. So this presentation is to ask that you as council, and with the help of staff and input from the aquarium, consider, can we redirect the washrooms to somewhere else? And yes, we were given $100,000 from the resort municipal funding, and yes, we would like to consider reimbursing the district with some of that money towards the replacement of the washrooms. So that's my presentation, and I'm welcoming any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyons. Just, Mr. Lawrence, did you want to speak, maybe make a couple points, what you're hearing, and maybe a path forward for council?
There is a possibility for council to consider selling back that portion of the aquarium back to the Aquarium Society, and then looking at alternate options for washroom sites. I would note that the access to public washrooms in the downtown core is very important for the community and for visitors. So if council were to consider the request, it would have to be in part with the replacement of the washrooms in an alternate location in close proximity to the existing washroom facility to ensure that there's adequate washrooms for the public. With the Village Green plan as well, you're going to see larger events, more community events in that area. So washrooms, again, are pretty critical infrastructure, especially for visitor experience. I would suggest, if council would like to pursue this, or at least investigate it, that staff could be directed to bring back a report on options and impacts of undertaking this request.
And it's a big one. It's just making us all aware of the impacts. I think, from the onset, it sounds like a great idea. I want to make sure the negative, and so thank you, Mr. Lyons. And we will make sure as a council, I don't know if we need to make a motion here today. I don't like making them after a delegation, but we'll circle back with Mr. Lawrence here and figure out next steps. You've been heard, and we'll try to put a little bit of time into this and see if there is a possibility for any other options.
I think that's a lot bigger
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
conversation
for sure.
regarding the whole town.
Yeah,
and water.
exactly. Yeah. So, anyways, it's on the radar. You've let us know, and we appreciate that. Are you staying for the rest of the meeting? I like it. Okay, that's cool. Awesome. Cool. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for that answer, Mr. Lawrence. Moving along. Did we have any unfinished business? And the committee of the whole, which I was looking forward to, is going to be moved on to the next one. Moving on to bylaws, we're going to welcome Ms. Monteith regarding the revenue anticipating borough bylaw. Tax time already, huh?
Oh man, feels like it never ends. Through the
It
mayor.
doesn't. It is. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Through the mayor, I was just actually sitting in the back reminding myself that 2 years ago, before the pandemic hit, Mr. Lyons and I were on the same airplane heading out of town. So it feels like a long time ago. Okay, back to business. Revenue anticipation bylaw. So municipalities have a number of tools in the toolbox that we can use to manage our cash flow in the first half of the year while we're waiting for the property tax funds to come in. So for example, we have a $2 million line of credit through CIBC, as well as the ability to borrow temporarily from the Municipal Finance Authority. And in order to keep these options open to us, it actually requires that we adopt, or that council adopts, a revenue anticipation bylaw annually. And for the calculation, we use section 177.3 of the community charter, which is 75% of all property taxes imposed for all purposes in the preceding year. So for us, that's a little over $4 million. And I only have two options today. It's kind of a take it or leave it approach. Option number one gives us the flexibility and allows us to pay our bills if need be. As well, although it is listed as a con, I will say the cost of borrowing money right now at the end of December was less than 1%. So I noted that for you through MFA. And I'd also like to note that with this type of borrowing, once the property tax funds are received, we do have to apply that directly to any loan that we take under this type of borrowing. And the second option is, of course, not to adopt this bylaw. And what that would mean for us is we would have to cancel our line of credit with the bank, and that this particular type of borrowing through MFA temporarily would not be available. I can note that during the time that I've been here anyway, I don't know about previously, but we haven't had to actually borrow money for these purposes in the last 3 years. And despite having a pandemic, so that's good news for us. So it's just a safety net, really, for us. So we would be doing this every year. Are there any questions?
Oh, perfect. Thank you for the presentation.
I will move recommendation 1 that council approve option A to give first, second, and third readings to revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number 1301/2022 as presented.
I'll second that.
Perfect. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Ms. Monteith.
Thank you.
And moving on to our second report is the Council Procedure Bylaw number 1300/2021. Ms. Mason.
If it's okay with you, I'll present from here.
That's okay, yeah.
So in regards to this report, at the November 23rd, 2021 council meeting, the District of Euclid Council Procedure Bylaw was given first, second, and third readings. Public notice has since been given, and as of today, we have not received any community feedback. This therefore puts council in the position today to consider and adopt the bylaw. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer for you.
Are there any questions from council? I think we've vetted this quite well, and thank you. So we have a recommendation. Someone doesn't mind moving it?
Can move that council approve option A to adopt the District of Euclid Council Procedure Bylaw number 1300/2021 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Paula. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
We've been waiting all week for that, right? I hate that. do that to myself all the time. We got 3 reports here. First reports provided by the fire chief is regarding the Union of British Columbia BC Municipalities 2022 Joint EOC grant application. Welcome, Chief.
Yeah, as the title states, this is just looking today for a resolution of council in support of the ECRD applying for the 2022 UBCM Emergency Operations Center grant. So we would partner with the ACRD. They would write the grant. They would be the keeper of the money and do all the paperwork involved with the grant, the final report. They simply were looking for a resolution of support, and we would participate in the training exercise that's developed as a result of the grant. Gladly take any questions.
Any questions for the chief? No? Comment, go ahead.
Just a comment through the mayor. It's great to see the grant covers 100% of the costs.
The chief is good at that.
He tries.
He tries to give 0 excuses to pull out, so it's all good. I like it. Okay, we do have a recommendation if someone doesn't mind moving it.
I'll move that council approve option A, that the District of Euclid agrees to partner with the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District on the Union of BC Municipalities 2022 Community Emergency Preparedness Funds, Emergency Operations Centers and Training Grant, that's a big one, and therefore authorizes the ACRD to apply for, receive, and manage grant funding on behalf of the District of Euclid.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks again, Chief.
Thank you.
Report number 2, this report is provided by the Director of Engineering Services, is regarding the Cedar Hub Washroom contract authorization. Welcome, Mr. McIntosh.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'll start again, no problem. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, this report is about the Cedar Hub Washroom, and specifically an opportunity to authorize a contract to build, deliver, and install that washroom. Council will recall that in December of 2021, district staff presented to Council the successful proponent of an RFP that district staff completed for best value option for that Cedar Hub washroom. At that time, Council directed staff to investigate options to implement a third stall into that washroom. So since then, district staff have been working with Michelet Projects Limited, the successful proponent of that RFP, to install a third washroom and provide a new quote on their existing quote. So today, what I have in front of Council is an updated, a revised quote from that RFP. So same washroom, the West Coast style architecture with the slanted roof, and now 3 washrooms two are handicap accessible, one is not, and this washroom can be installed in March of 2022 for an additional cost of $10,000, adding that third washroom stall. So no changes to the structure or engineering or services. So with that said, district staff present to council today a couple of options to consider. Option A would be to authorize a $124,431 contract between the District of Euclid and Michelet Projects to build, deliver, and install that three-stall washroom in March of 2022. The second option would be to modify the Cedar Hub washroom facility, the scope, and return with a different option entirely. And then option three, or option C rather, would be to just cancel the project and leave it. No motion required. So so the next steps on this would be to take council's directive and proceed. The recommendation here is option A, to authorize the contract and also reallocate $24,431 from RMI to execute that firm fixed price contract. With that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Any questions? Obviously, he's come back to us with installation of the third bathroom, which I think we all would like to have seen. So thank you for getting on that, and it's nice when they're sometimes easy. So this is great.
Through the mayor to McIntosh. So the work from Michelet that's not included, the civil work and the sidewalks and stuff, is that money included in the ask right now, or is that coming out of operating or RMI?
No, so there isn't budget through the mayor. So there isn't budget for additional earthworks, and so there'll be a pad installed, which is in budget, and then some grading work that'll just come out of some operational funds. But at this point, we don't expect a significant cost there.
I will move recommendation 1 that council approve option A to authorize $124,431.52 plus GST contract between the District of Euclid and Michelet Projects Ltd. to build, deliver, and install the Cedar Hub washroom facility, and further that council direct staff to reallocate $24,431.52 from Resort Municipality Initiative funds towards the completion of the Cedar Hub washroom facility.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Before you go, thank you. We look forward to it. Maybe I missed it, but would there be a timeline now that you've got approval for installation?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that timeline has been revised to tentatively March. Tomorrow morning, I'll execute a CCDC contract with the builder, and we'll get in queue.
Perfect. I'd love to see more of those throughout the community. I think it'll be great to see how it turns out. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, he's working us over there by coincidence. Yeah. There must be an insider in the office telling him what's going on. Okay. Okay. We're going to the third report. The last reports provided by the Manager of Corporate Services is regarding the 2022 council meeting schedule. Ms. Mason.
Good afternoon again. With the very recent adoption of the District of Euclid Council Procedure Bylaw, I would like to recommend that the 2022 council meeting schedule, that council consider adopting the amended 2022 council meeting schedule. The only change to this schedule is with respect to the meeting location that's written on it. On the existing schedule, it's specified as the George Fraser Room as a meeting location. The recommendation today is to amend the schedule to specify Euclid Community Center, which will provide us some more flexibility, which is helpful in the times we're in right now, having flexibility to use different rooms for different reasons. and it'll ensure that we don't have to ask for a resolution and give public notice every time we want to change a meeting place. Do you have any questions?
No, I think you explained it perfectly. So, who would like to move that?
I will move that council approve to adopt the amended District of Euclid 2022 council meeting schedule and provide public notice in accordance with the council procedure bylaw.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. No notice of motions. It's always a quiet one from this group. Thanks, Billy. Correspondence. We have 8 today. There's actually some good ones to talk about. Do you want to just go one by one?
Just regarding 13.1, this first one from Mr. Haydock, did we not request a report to council about decreasing the overall speed limit in town, or looking at the option of changing the speed limit in town? I believe we did back in the fall.
I remember a discussion, but I don't.
Mr. Lawrence might be able to.
I couldn't remember if we.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, a report is on the desk of Mr. McIntosh. He'll be bringing that back to council in due course with some recommendations with speed limits and speed reduction measures.
Just a question through the mayor to staff. Can a municipality just change speed limits without checking with ICBC or Ministry of Highways or anything like that? Is it in our jurisdiction to actually change speed limits?
To the mayor, yes. We do have the ability to modify our speed limits. There are procedural requirements and notifications that are necessary to undertake those, but it is within the jurisdiction of the municipality to alter speed limits on municipal roads. So currently Peninsula Road up until the co-op and down to the harbor is still a highway, so that would be outside of our jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to see how that report looks. Boardwalk and gazebo, 13.2, boardwalk and gazebo reconstruction. Obviously, that's an ongoing one down there for those users.
I was just going to ask through the mayor to staff, has there been we talked about this, I believe it was last council meeting. Just wondering if a letter has been sent just regarding the progress and what the timeline.
I would have to get back to council on that one. I'm not sure if a letter has been issued at this point in time.
We should probably circle back to that, Mr. Lawrence, just because I don't know if you've walked it, but we should probably just do an on-site because it's becoming very hazardous. And I know that there are wants and needs to work on to make a better boardwalk, but there's going to be a substantial cost associated with that. So I think it's probably necessary. It's coming before us every year, and I think we're eventually going to have to put understand what that tag will look like. But be ashamed to lose it. There's 13.3, 2022 convention that Mr. Lyons is talking about. April, yes, I would like to go to that, and you maybe formally let the rest of your gang know. Are you all going? Oh, you're in. Oh, perfect. So you are going. Maybe we'll carpool. The reason is it'd be nice to see the group there. I know when the community forest first started, this was a big thing for us, and that this particular group came here, presented to us a couple times. So it'd be nice to just actually, for me anyways, to go over and just thank them for their support and
good relationship
what the community
building.
forest is doing for us. So I think it's important. Yep, I know. It's okay. It's full of sharks. It's all good.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. If it's the desire of council to send a representative to it, we probably need a motion to authorize mayor to go to the COFI conference.
Is that because there's possibly expenses?
It is in person, or I haven't looked at it to see if there was an online option.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I would definitely be there. So thank you for the clarity. I have a desire to go, so I'm not going to hide that.
I will make a motion to have our mayor attend the COFI convention in April 27th to 29th in Vancouver.
I'll second that. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for that, Mr. Lawrence. And this is North Annis. This next one, they're all good ones today. You usually don't see this. So 13.4 elected officials parental leave. We all know the challenges of a 4-year term, and life comes and goes. And God forbid, having being pregnant, I'm very supportive of this application before us. So, and definitely having a letter of support for this. So, if you don't mind. But I think I'll probably bring this back with just a motion of support, unless you have an idea.
It would be appropriate for council to just make a motion that council directs staff to issue a letter of support for the parental leave, elected officials' parental leave on behalf of the mayor. So we could do that and just send a letter of support.
Perfect. So I'll make that motion. You got that, Paula? Your seconder?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Sorry, I really loved it, and I didn't flip the page over. They already have a pre-made resolution for it, so sorry to put you on the spot. That's me. A little bit unprepared on that one. 13.5, there was nothing for me unless there's anything for anyone else. 13.6, there was something in this regarding wildfires that got my attention. I'll leave that one. And we got our kind letter regarding our UBC meeting from the Minister of Transportation, Mr. Fleming, and that's all we can ask for. I think it's that almost the last paragraph of the fact is if he's going to come to town, he might actually check in, and that's all we can ask for. So remind you that Mr. Fleming was also the Minister of Education when it came for the school announcement, so he's done some good stuff for us. 13.8, again, it's just a letter regarding possible addition to the resources to the community for policing. And I know that Mr. Lawrence and our sergeant are working on other strategies in the background, so this conversation continues to go on. It's not dead. Okay, are we good on that one? I think we're good. And we have 2 information items. This is just for information. Obviously, next month, this is the easy month for the reservoir cleaning. Next month is going to be the heavy one. They actually hit the pipes, and that's when, pardon me? Yeah, without the flushing. Yeah, so obviously there's going to be a whole, and what we have to remember, this is the reservoir cleaning, and the piping is next month, so for a few weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're anticipating about 20 days of actual flushing. It will be done in 11 zones, and there will be public announcements and information packages that will be sent out through our Yuki mail, social media, a mail out, and we're looking at also radio and newspaper article to make sure that all business owners and the public know when this is going to be occurring and what to expect. This is definitely going to impact the community for a protracted period of time while we start flushing these lines. It's an important step. So the end result will be a more reliable, cleaner water system, but it's not going to be a magic bullet either. So there's still a lot more steps that are involved in providing that ongoing clean drinking water without the God, I can't remember the type of sediment that's in there. Manganese, thank you. Can never get it in my head. Yes. So it's not a magic bullet that will get rid of all manganese until the water project is complete, but it will hopefully address a lot of the ongoing challenges that business owners face. So, but it definitely is not a magic bullet. There will still be challenges.
And it's a big first step, so it's good. Jeff, have you heard this conversation come up before during your time around here? No? Yes, end result. That's the hope. So it's good. Okay, moving along to check listing. Is there any questions regarding that for anyone? Oh, sorry, did you have something?
I had a couple of quick questions. One is I see an item here for rec hall roof repair, and that's pretty obvious what that is. But through the mayor to staff, just wondering when we're going to have a conversation about some of our aging assets. We've been talking about the rec hall for 7 years, whether we should tear it down or lift it up or do something with it. So is there anything in the works to discuss our aging assets?
Right. Thank you through the mayor. That is a wonderful question and a very important one. And the answer is yes, coming up on through the budget process. One of the first steps, as council may recall, during the December budget meeting, we indicated to council that we're going to be bringing back that sort of first asset management plan 20-year outlook. It's in very, very draft format. With lots of changes on the horizon, but we wanted to get that in front of council. That is sort of the first look at our 20-year asset replacement plan, what it looks like, what the numbers are attached to that, which include the rec hall and all of our underground and above ground assets. So that is a very important question for council to consider as we move forward. There's substantial financial implications that go along with the implementation of that asset management plan, and that will include items like the rec hall. It won't be a specific discussion on individual assets at this point in time, but that's the starting point, is to get that in front of council so you can see a high-level review of what that might look like and how it's going to move forward.
Great, thank you. I just had one more. There's a couple of items that's called Euclid Tourism Plan. It shows up a couple of times, and that's obviously Ms. Fortune's department. Does it have something to do with Tourism Euclid, or is it completely separate from what Tourism Euclid's doing?
I might defer
Through
this
the mayor
to
to
our
staff.
Director of Finance, if she doesn't mind.
The contractor is WCS Engagement and Planning, if that helps.
Through the mayor, I'm just trying to find it on the check listing here.
There's one that's three up from the very bottom.
Thank you. Oh, 98, okay.
And also on 96, there's another one.
Yeah, you're correct in that Ms. Fortune isn't here, but if it's to do with the Euclid Tourism Plan, that'd be the master tourism plan that that has been in progress since 2021. I also believe that that plan is being funded by a grant through ICE-T. So those are just the progress payments from the contractor that have come through. In terms of the status of the project, I would have to defer that to Ms. Fortune to answer.
So that had something to do with the open house that we all went to back in the fall.
That's
Okay,
correct.
great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I believe, if memory serves, that Tourism Euclid and Ms. Fortune, they were looking at the end of March to have that back in beginning of April, with the fully completed plan late spring. I believe. I think there's delays on the people that are doing the research and the writing of the report. That there's a little bit of delays there, of course, due to COVID usually.
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead, Paula.
Miss Fortune is actually attending the meeting via Zoom and has raised her hand.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Well, welcome, Miss Fortune.
Miss Fortune, can you hear us?
Through the mayor, yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
You betcha. Welcome. Thank you.
Sorry, you council hear me? Yes. Sorry, and I was madly sending down a quick text. Yes, this is a fully funded project through a provincial grant. We are jointly doing this project with Tourism Euclid, and Mr. Lawrence is correct in terms of timing that we're looking at this point in time. It also moves forward to help out with the MRDT as we and the resort development strategy that we hope we will be building out this late spring. So it all coincides together, and it is, yes, fully funded.
Great, thank you.
What triggered your first question was the rec hall roof, and I know you're going to present to council the 2030 year, but we're still, and I know it's
yes.
a reminder, we're still waiting for that hard sports report.
Yes, and through the mayor, my intent is to have the hard sports surface cow meeting with you, with the council on January 25th.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Me too.
Good. Well, hey, our kids are only getting older, and it's only getting more rainy, so you don't have to sell it to us. We just need to build it.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council committee reports. Councillor McEwen.
Sorry, I haven't had any meetings. I do have the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board of Trustees AGM at the very end of this month, January 29th. It was initially going to be a hybrid meeting. We had a choice of going in person or by Zoom, and as of yesterday, that has been taken away from us, and it's going to be strictly by Zoom.
They know everybody's eager to get together, so they're going to control that. Councillor Kemps?
Before Christmas, there was a couple of PAC meetings, Parent Advisory Committee meetings for the high school. Happy to announce that, I don't know if everyone's heard, but Drew Ryan, who was a teacher at UES for many years and taught my children, was the principal at Wick School, is now the interim principal for our high school for the 21-22 year. So that's really great. So we get some normality in there. And I have to say that the school is still moving forward. It looks wonderful. It's going to be great to see.
Thank you for the update. Yeah, the school does look amazing. Councillor Hoare?
I've had a quiet month.
It's okay to have that. You can celebrate that. It's all good.
Other than work, which has not been quiet, but
That doesn't end.
yeah, no meetings. There's a Trails Society meeting tomorrow night, but that's it.
Okay, so a question for you then. How did your reverse Advent calendar go? Because you were talking about all month of December. So what's the quick update on that?
It went really well. For me, every morning when I would come into work, I would actually go and look in the food bank bin to see what was in it. And sometimes there'd be nothing, and other times there'd be like a big box of a whole bunch of their reverse items. And so I think, some people were just doing it when it was convenient for their shop, which is the whole point. I just give them a list of things that peeps at food bank need, and Chris said they did get quite a bit, and they had a really good Stuff the Cruiser event, so the food bank had a pretty good Christmas, and they sent out over 100 hampers, and yeah.
Doing that.
And no, that's it. Sorry.
Okay, we're almost done here, so you got a couple minutes. It's all good. I have nothing to report. And question period. Are there any questions from the audience today? No? Okay. Are there any questions via Zoom or telephone?
There are no questions via Zoom or telephone.
Thank you. And lastly, have we received any questions by community input at Euclid.ca? I'm just trying to get through it.
We have not.
So thanks for attending, and we're adjourned. Everybody have a great week.